Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Granger, and this is Curtain Call, a weekly interview series with powerful women in the arts, hosted by myself and my co host, Tamar Ilana. And today we have a very special guest. She's an actor, she's a writer, she's an improviser, producer, director. She was a regular for 8 seasons on CBC's hit comedy Mr. D. Hilarious on that. She's won a Canadian Comedy Award in the category of Best Female Improviser in the country. She has an amazing improv troupe called the National Theatre of the World, and they have won, I believe, 5 Canadian Comedy Awards. She is one part of the comedy duo Naomi Snieckus, which she forms with her husband. And she, in the last, I'm not sure exactly when, but a couple of years ago, she started the Firecracker department, which is a podcast and it's also an interview series. Similar to what we've been doing, but for a lot longer. And also a site that, website and a platform that enables women to sort of empower other women artists. So I'm happy to have her here today. She should be joining us in just a moment. I'm in Vancouver and I believe she's in Toronto. Hello.
Hi, Leah.
How you doing?
Oh, so good. So good. Look at this. Look at this background that I've chosen, as if it's like this is the calmness that I'm living in.
I know that it's not, but you've really pulled it off. Whereas my background is like my sister's bedroom, and there's like a 3-year-old outside that is watching Frozen.
Oh
Just
yeah.
to hope like that will keep her calm for the next 45 minutes.
No, I love it. Like this is like the beauty, and then on the other side of the camera, flames. Just everything
Complete.
flames and rubble.
Look, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you. I don't want to. I'm telling you.
Oh,
He's still alive, Leah.
that's amazing. What's his name again?
Rufus.
Rufus.
But if
Rufus
you
still
smelled his
kicking.
breath, you were like, no, I think he's passed away. No, he's 18.
Wow.
No.
Yeah. So how are you doing? You're back in Toronto. I know you just had a crazy some time in the United States now.
Yeah, we're back in Toronto. We're sort of going back and forth when COVID will allow it, but everything changed. So we
Mhm.
gotta roll with it. And I feel like we're getting ready for another change now. So bring it on.
Totally.
What's gonna happen next?
I was in denial about there being another change for the last kind of several weeks, and now I'm like, yeah, maybe we're gonna roll it back a little bit over the
I
next few weeks. We'll see.
I get
We'll
it.
see.
Somebody asked
But
where Milo, my friend Milo Manheim is, which I always love because I did a movie, a Disney Zombies movie that,
yes,
I mean, I played, like those movies that we watched when we were kids, and there was always that like much older woman that played the funny teacher, principal, grandmother. So that was me, but I'm like that much older woman that I didn't
you're
realize
like,
I was. But Milo is fantastic in the show.
you look fantastic.
So do you, my friend.
So I know you as a friend as well, but I was first introduced to you through a friend that was performing in one of your shows with the National Theatre of the World in Kensington Market. I think it was in the early days of that show at that venue. So for people that don't know you, can you just tell me a little bit about like what it is that you do? Like, and how do you describe yourself to people that aren't familiar with your extensive body of work?
If you're not familiar with my extensive body of work, you can Google. But I started in theater. I jumped into Second City.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm like I always kind of describe myself as primarily an actor comedian, and but then after Second City, I mean, I did 5 shows there. Met my husband. I was like, I'm done here. I've done what I needed to come to do. And then we started National Theatre of the World with Ron Peterson. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
show. We had 3 shows going. We had Carnegie Hall, which is the show you were talking about.
Yeah.
It was so fun. We were just talking about Carnegie Hall, and it was like, that was such a heyday. Because people would come and they'd be like, what is this? And we were like, we don't know. But it was sort of like this ability to, I think you performed a couple of times, didn't you?
I did perform it once, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was sort of like, what's your talent? Let's get you on stage. So we had like flamenco dancing, we had magicians, we have ventriloquists, we had the Carnegie Hall show dancers. Jackie English choreographed a new show, and Cleopatra did a new show every week. So that we did that. We did Impromptu Splendor, was improvised plays in the style of playwright, and then we did Scriptease, which was script improvising based on 2 pages written by a playwright. And then after that, Barham and I did, that's Matt. Matt and I did Barham and Snieckus, and we have a podcast that we did comedy because we were like, what can we do? Because we're married and we like having some fun, so let's do some comedy. So we did that, and we still do Barham and Snieckus. And then around that, I did Mr. D for 8 years, and I did the Disney Zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then firecracker department. So I'm a real firecracker of all trades because I do. Yeah. Well, firecracker department started as a podcast, and now it's like a community. So we have like events and workshops and panels. We have like a wellness department, a social justice department, a comedy and writing and mentorship department. And these are all run by other passionate people, not me, but it's under the umbrella of firecracker department. So yes, say it again.
Let's dive deeper into some of those things that you just mentioned.
Let's do it.
So can you tell me a little bit, because I've always been fascinated by Second City. I like you, I also do 1,000 different things. And I recently did I worked for a podcast about connections between America and Canada. And I did an episode about, oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on the name of the play. That was, there was a play in like the late 70s starring Eugene Levy, the musical about Jesus. Oh my
Hair.
gosh, what's it?
Was it Hair? Gosh, I'm blanking too now. Was it Hair? No, it was, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking.
People are screaming at there.
It's not Technicolor Dreamcoat, is it?
No.
Oh my God, help us, fact checkers.
Yeah,
It's
whoever's on here.
Like Eugene Levy, Martin Short, Gilda Radner.
Anyways,
oh my God.
This was even before Second City, and then they all went on to that. And so I was just reading so much about how it was just very legendary at that time, and it's kind of like continued in Toronto to be that sort of like place that gives birth to people that go on to do all this crazy stuff. So what was your experience like there, and how did you get into that place?
Yeah, first of all, whoever's watching, can you please just Google that? It's driving me crazy. What show was the beginning of Second City and SCTV? It's just, I know as soon as you say it.
Godspell.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Okay. So Second City for me, I grew up with SCTV. So if you've ever seen any of that sketch show, it was sort of my my lifeline a little bit. Like it was the thing that my family all gathered around and watched. And it was the way that I saw comedy being done in a way that wasn't, I don't know. My mom's British, so the other comedy choice was like Benny Hill. And so Benny Hill was a lot of like big chested, funny women that were put into a category that was where they found their funny, was in their looks or their femininity. And then, you watch SCTV and you get Gilda Radner. Gilda Radner was on SCTV, that's SNL, but like Catherine O'Hara and Andrea Martin doing characters that were like bold and not necessarily the idea of what we think is beautiful, but like fucking sorry, but yes, so funny. So that gave me a sort of an insight into like comedy in a world that I understood. So I knew I always needed to work with Second City. I was living in Vancouver. I sent my application, my resume, and my headshot to audition, and they wouldn't see me. So I ended up crashing the auditions. And I think that always I used to crash auditions all the time when I first started. And I loved it because it kind of gives you a bit of like juice, Leah? Like when you go into an audition, you're like, I'm just here. I'm going to spend 2 days in your waiting room hoping that you'll see me audition. That's how much I love what I get to do. That's how much I love it. Like, I mean, I honestly, you pack free meals just in case they don't see you for the full day, and you just sit. And we didn't have iPhones, so it was just sitting and being in that space and trying to keep limber so that if they go, you know what, we have time for you, you're like, I'm ready to go. So Second City was an audition that I crashed, and then they saw me and I got into the touring company. And, you know, my time there, God, we were just reflecting this the other day because Andrew Alexander, who started Second City, I just have so much love for him, for the work that he did to keep that institution going when money wasn't always easy and controversy, as it still is challenging. And people make mistakes and people learn and do better. And I'll just always revel in the fact that I've somehow landed myself in this weird Second City family that is easily one of the best things I've ever done.
Do you stay connected with that community?
You know, different people, like for sure. I definitely stayed in touch with my husband, who was there for 4 of the 5 shows I did. I think, no, 5 of the 5 shows. And then, you know, we'll see some of the cast members, and then we just saw a couple people when we were in Chicago. So it's definitely like a friendly, like not a family, but a friendly that I have in my life. Yeah, very lucky.
Really like launched a lot of people. So like once that time had ended for you, how did you decide what you were going to do next? Like, were you just like, I'm going to start pushing all my own projects, or were you looking for work?
I mean, we're artists, right? Aren't we always looking for work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing, Leah, that I realized about that. I think that's once you accept that that's just our life, it's a lot less stressful, a lot more like accepting and comforting just to be like, oh, there's people that are established way more than I am that are still looking for work. So when we left Second City, I knew that I wanted to start something else. I didn't want that to be the pinnacle of my career. So the boys, Ron Peterson, Chris Gibbs, and Matt had started Carnegie Hall show. And then we started Impromptu Splendor. And I was like, I think this should be all under one umbrella. And I kind of weaseled my way into it. So that was really important to me. And then at the same time auditioning and keeping my chops in the film and TV world. So, and then writing. I think that's like one of the keys of art is that no one's gonna do your career for you. Do you know what I mean? You step back. You don't do anything. You go and have some cafe au lait, bonbons, and paint your nails. I'll do the rest. Like you have to infuse your life and infuse your creativity. So that was important to me too.
I mean, it does seem that like there's this idea from the outside that like you're gonna make it at some point, and then there's like agents and you have your team that's sort of like making it happen. And it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe that happens for somebody, but I think even then it's like you still have to be pushing things forward constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does happen, right? It does happen like when people are walking through the mall and somebody's like, oh my God, you're amazing. But there's also a level of commitment to your craft. You know what I mean? Like I'm still taking acting classes. I'm still, I mean, not now, but I was still getting up on as many improv stages as I could just to exercise my muscles. It's not like, you know, not to say that actors are like doctors, but people don't stop training. And then actors are like, oh, I've done my training or I've booked the gig. I'm good now. As opposed to going, no, I gotta keep going.
I feel like my friends who are actors are like the least available people that I know. Just because there's always something, like even if it's like, they're looking for work, it's like they're looking a lot for work. Yeah. And like they're like having to memorize like way too many pages for auditions and this kind of thing. It's like these are busy people.
Yeah. But that's, you know, we're lucky. I'm lucky to be in this career. Gosh, every time I get to perform, even when I'm not performing, I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. This is like, yeah, it's the best thing I could have done with my life.
So when you talk about like being like an actor, a comedian, a writer, when you talk about being a comedian, I feel like a lot of people that aren't in the biz think of stand up. And how was it that you decided to go more of the improv route and not the stand up route?
I think stand up for me was always terrifying, and also super lonely. Like I've done one person shows before, and that's really lonely. And I love, like, one of the most important things in my world is collaboration and community. So I don't get that as much from stand up, although the stand up community is incredible. especially in the lady and non-binary category. Like, they're incredible people. So I just knew, I don't know, it suited my thinking on my feet. Um,
You
yeah,
don't
and by
find
the time
improv?
yeah, sorry,
Did
go
you
ahead.
ever find improv scary?
Say it again.
Improv to me seems more scary because there's
Gotcha.
like no point.
Here's the thing, everybody thinks like the other thing is scarier. Like, when I think about what you do, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's scary to me. Like dancing and having like your muscles challenged all the time. I can't touch my toes, Leah. But I think for me, knowing that I'm on stage in improv with other folks, that is so comforting because we're in it together. We're if somebody comes up with an idea, it's not up to them to push the whole idea forward. It's up to us to say, oh, I love that idea. Let's make that idea into a story. And then I will also say time, like put your time in. I was doing 6 shows a week at Second City. So
Yeah.
and 7 shows, six nights, 7 shows, you're gonna get better. You just are,
Yeah.
because you're not precious about it. So if I wanted to do stand-up now, I'd have to start doing it as religiously as that. And I just don't know if I have it in me right now for that kind of fear. I love stand-ups though. I think they're extraordinary.
Yeah. And I've been listening to this podcast, Stop Podcasting Yourself.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
a
yeah. Graham, oh God.
Graham and Dave.
Yeah, amazing.
And yeah, it's like a really great cross section of comedy in Canada, and they have a ton of women on the show. So
Yeah.
it's been like a really awesome way to get to know. And yeah, yeah, it's just being in Toronto, it seems like a wonderful place to be for improv or for any kind of comedy. Like I sometimes wonder how much Torontonians outside of the community know how strong it is here.
That's a good point. I don't know. It is really strong. I mean, I'll take my hat off to Gary Rideout for that as well, because he started Comedy Bar, which
Yeah.
definitely stepped us up a notch. And now they've opened up another location over on the Danforth. So they have 2 comedy
Oh,
bars. I know. And Second City's over there right now because they haven't opened their new space. But um, in the heyday and without the pandemic, you could go and see improv every night of the week in Toronto. And that's
mhm.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And a lot of your work has been with your husband, your now husband, Matt Barham, who's also a wonderful improviser and actor. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like to work with him? Because I know for some people it'd probably be difficult. I'm sure you get this question a lot, is just how do you guys ever fight? Like, I've not seen that.
Never, Leah. No, we never fight. No, it's just unicorns and rainbows all day. Listen, I have suffered from sexual harassment in the workplace. And I don't belittle it, but I do think that's what happens when you work from home with your husband. But I mean, gosh, he's extraordinary. I'm the luckiest. I'm the luckiest. He's just an extraordinary human being, and he brings his heart to stage. And so doing improv with him is one of the most joyful things I can do. Not easy, because you're 2 strong-willed people producing a show and you have different ideas. So, I mean, it's not easy decorating a room together because we have different ideas, but it's worth it. It's worth it to get through the struggle and compromise and give and take.
Because the fact that you're a couple makes your comedy stronger, makes what you do.
Yeah, I mean, we auditioned for a lot of stuff together too, because we have like an innate chemistry, and I think that's huge with casting. Like, I mean, we've done 2 commercials together, and often get cast as like a couple in things like Carter and a 12 Trees of Christmas. And so I think that there's already a chemistry that we get to have that isn't always there. And also there's like subtle stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you know each other's timing, you know what each other does so well.
Yeah. And we also know each other personally, so you can I remember him saying something on stage that was so ridiculous, and the audience was like shocked by what he said, and I just looked at him and I said, nobody likes you right now. I'm not even sure if I like you. But it's that kind of like extra layer of fun. And we haven't been doing live improv. I miss it so much. I was talking about improv the other day, and I started to cry like a little wiener. Like, I was so I just miss the connection on stage and the connection with the audience, the magic of a moment that only happens there and then it's gone. Like it's just, yeah, I miss it so
Also
much.
nice because improv often happens in like small venues where there's like this immediacy with the audience. Because that's something that's similar with what with flamenco is it's often like in a little club kind of
Yeah.
vibe. And I've done like a few like some shows during the pandemic, but they'd be like big venue live streamed with like a very tiny audience. So I was like, yeah, I'm doing stuff. Like this is it.
Yeah.
But then I did something last week in Buddies and Bad Times had like a cabaret thing that I did,
Yes.
and it was like I was like, oh, like I could hear them
Magic.
being like breathing and like yeah, I was reminded of like what it is that
I
we're
know. And look what we get to do. Like you have this talent that not everybody else has, Leah, with flamenco dancing. I remember seeing you for the first time, and because I'd met you through our friend Dove, and
yes.
then Dove was like, "Oh, she's also a flamenco dancer." I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And then I saw you, and I was like, "What? What? How?" It's just extraordinary that you have this talent that you obviously care about so much that you practice and train. Again, like it goes back to the you don't just one day going, I think I'll try doing more flamenco and not have had training. So it is magic. And when people get to experience that and see your heart, like literally from your toes to your nose, yeah, it's magic.
Well, hopefully we'll be back with some little venues and up close and personal.
Hmm.
I think like comedy club and stuff like that is still open at the moment, right?
Yeah,
And
comedy club is. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen, right, with this new strain? But we're an adaptable people. Improvisers, artists are an adaptable people, and that's something that I think we've all learned too from this pandemic is how important we are. You know, like you can't survive without art. You can't survive without comedy, without music, without dance. It's not possible.
it's not worth it.
I don't think so. Like, can you imagine taking, like, if somebody goes, "Oh, I remember having this argument with somebody about the arts not being um, funded by the government," and I was like, take art out of your life, and what have you got? Okay, you got no TV, no music, no theater. Like, what have you got left? You're gonna stare at your mug, and no, the mug was created by an artist, so you're gonna stare at, I don't know,
It's basically the thing that we look forward to in our lives, you
yeah.
know? It's like the thing that fills like a lot of our leisure time. It's like that in the outdoors, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
pretty important.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, because I'm so fascinated by the firecracker department because it seems like it aligns so closely with a lot of the stuff that we're really interested in doing. So what was it that motivated you to get that off the ground? I guess it was the podcast that came first, right?
Yeah, the podcast started originally because I desperately wanted to have deeper conversations with people that I would meet in random, like, parties or just seeing somebody quickly. And I was like, I want to know more about you. I don't want to know just surface things. So, like, people like Danny Kind, who I would see all the time at like events, and then never be able to connect or go further with our friendship. And so I was like, I need to know more about you. And now one of my dearest friends. And it's so like she's felt like just such a important part of my world. So that was the first start. And then the second part was the rage I felt from the Dr. Ford trials that were happening. And I got so ragey, and I'm not a rageful person, but I was really upset with the reaction. I was upset with Trump's dialogue, his tone about all of that. Firecrackerdepartment.com. And I was so pissed off that I was like, what am I going to do? I remember tweeting something and being like really ragey in my tweet and being like, that's not going to serve. But I've already got this
Yeah.
firecracker department. Why don't I just fuel this? So I started really like putting both feet into the game. And then I had a bunch of friends that were like, if you ever need help with your firecracker department, I'm like, well, we could use a newsletter and a website. Oh, well, what do you want to do? And then this is the kicker. Then I was like, well, what do you want to do? I need a website and a newsletter. What do you want to do? And so I got people like Veronica Martin that was like, well, I believe in mentorship. I'd love to run a mentorship department. And Farah Marani, and now Lisa Lafferty and Fran Caviello running the script department. And so it started as mine, but it has definitely become way more than just me, and also international, which I love. So we've got our little team in Toronto. We got a team in Los Angeles. We got Vicky Briarbeer, who I said her last name wrong for the first year that we knew each other. And she's in England with Amelia Copeland, like doing graphics and being part of the wellness department. Like it's really, I'm really proud of what everybody's been doing to push it forward.
Yeah, it seems incredible, and it just seems like very timely too. It's just like this inclusivity, and also just to create a space. And during the pandemic, it's like can these platforms exist? And
Mm-hmm.
like online, like podcasting, it's like we can still all be connecting with other people like who are in the industry. So as a
Yeah.
podcast, like what do you like? Because me and Tamara are hosting this interview series.
Yeah.
We're like, we don't really know what we're doing. It's the same kind of thing. Like, we're just trying to chat with people that we like,
That's how
basically.
you start, though.
But like, what are you like trying to get at in those interviews or like in those conversations? Is it the same kind of thing where you're like, I'm just fascinated by you? Or because we've had a lot of different people. Like sometimes it's like very funny and light, and sometimes it's like it's a very intense, like moving experience.
Yeah. What are your favorite kind of chats?
Um, I don't know. I like just in general, I have this like impulse that I don't know if it's necessarily a good one to just like keep it light and just sort of be like, what are like your joyful triumphs and stuff like that. But I think there's so much like trauma in the world, and if we're talking to like women like in general, like there's always like struggle to confront and talk about. So like I try to like go a little deeper sometimes.
I get it. You
Yeah.
know, I oscillate, and I'm the same as you, Leah. Like when I started this, I was like, I don't know. Like I'd never done. I mean, I'd done interviews like on red carpet for like CBC or something like that. I've done that kind of stuff, but I've never done these kind of intense interviews or chats. I kind of call them chats because interviews seem sort of like question answer conversations. So but then I remembered like going, well, let's just start. I can read and I can research as much as I want, but until I start trying it, it's not really going to come to fruition. And so I oscillate. I kind of go from like either having like I'll do a bunch of research. I'll do my research to find out things so that I'm fueled to have the conversation. And then I kind of throw it away and just stay curious. Because I think that's where like where it's the DNA of the day. Like if you and I were talking and I was like, I'm having a tough day, and if I'm interested in sharing that with you, then we could talk about that. It just so happens that as manic as my life is right now, I'm okay. So, I think it's being open and curious, especially with these kind of discussions. And I mean, you're doing a podcast with this. Tara just said like turning this into a podcast. Like I think it's really I think it's great. I think it's great to have more platforms for women and non-binary voices.
Absolutely. So what are you up to? What's going on? Like what are you working on? In Toronto, like where do you live? Like what projects are happening? I know it's hard to know anything with certainty these days, but
do you have any clue what 2022 is looking like?
I'm trying like so hard to have a clue, but like I don't.
No.
But I'm like forcing it.
Well, I mean, we want to have an idea, right? We're artists, but we need a little bit of structure. So we're like, I don't need a lot of structure, but just give me a couple of things. Dove and I always like name the year. So like one year it was the year of yes. I think one year, I'm going to swear, close your ears if you don't like it, but one year I think it was go fuck yourself. I don't think that was how we ended up the year, but it started that way. This year, Manny, what are you going to do in 2022? Or I haven't got a clue in 2022. I'm trying to be zen about it, but
I mean, what can you do at this point?
Yeah, I know this much. I know that my parents passed away last year. So it was a really wild ride to be mourning and grieving. My mom died, not COVID related. My mom died in February, and my dad was diagnosed and he passed away in the same year of December. So it's sort of been the aftermath of adjusting to
Yeah.
what that means. And then also sort of just like, letting grief kind of come in and out. And here's the bottom line of grief is that I don't actually mind grief because it means I loved hard and they're
Mhm.
present, and I actually don't mind speaking of it because it does make me feel like there was a deep connection that I was privileged enough to have. And so now at the end of 2021, also I was an executor of their whole world, which is
Yeah.
a nightmare, a nightmare.
Well, yeah,
So
that's incredibly stressful.
yeah, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant or a bookkeeper
Mhm.
or really anything other than a messy artist. So, so I'm looking forward to sort of not finishing that because it's always going to be part of my life. But I do feel like now there's enough time that's passed that I can sort of breathe a little bit again. I'm starting to dream again, which I couldn't for a while, which makes me really excited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when it's like in your body in that way.
Yeah. 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 So, and also with Firecracker Department, the team that is, it's about 25, 30 people that are in the core, and they've just worked
Mhm.
so hard. Everybody's working so hard to get us on track with structure and
Mhm.
administration and communication, all that stuff that's super important. And it feels like now we're getting ready and we're going to turn the corner into creativity. And that really excites me. It really excites me to see what everybody's hearts are going to put forward.
How long have you guys been working together? Like, how long has it been sort of an organization?
I'm gonna say Vicky's here from England and watching our chat. So I'm gonna look for a fact check from Vicky. What do you think, Vicky? 5 years together? Vicky was one of the first people. Vicky reached out to me and said, "Hey, I listened to your interview with Danny Kind. I love what you're doing. Can we start a chapter in the UK?" And I was like, "Who is this?" 2017. Thanks, fact checker. So and then we've been working together since then.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just because we're working on this project, it's like a lot more music and dance and that kind of thing,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just a lot. So it's like
It's a
it's nice
lot.
when it becomes a lot. Like the bigger it gets, the more like administration sort of management
Uh-huh.
becomes involved. It's like, yeah, how to sort of create something that is actually like doing something and where you can have the capacity to include a lot of people in like an organized way, but then at the same time, like still have it be something that's like creative and rewarding for the
Mhm.
people that started it.
Is it just the two of you right now?
No, no, no. It's also Tamar's partner, Ali, and honestly, like just a couple other people. Like maybe there's different people that will come in to manage like projects, like bigger shows. There's like a musical director, but it's probably like a core like three or four people, and then sort of maybe 10 peripheral. So it's yeah, maybe the idea is just to include more people.
I mean, with more people comes more management.
Yeah.
So and more hands on deck. So it is that kind of thing. Like when you're talking, do you remember when we used to do the bread and circus? And I think I kept our money in the shoebox. Like it was literally in a little box. And there was the three of us. I think we had one more person helping. Like I know Jen Pogue and Deanna Palazzo helped us producing. But the more people, the more complicated it gets. And oh,
Oh,
hi.
sorry.
Hi.
Little guess.
Hi, Miles.
I knew that would happen at some point. My mom dragged her out.
That's okay. I have time for all beings of all ages. No, I was just gonna say, where did that end up? I think, why not? Like, what are we doing if it's not purposeful, like something like this? So even if you run your company for X number of years, you're gonna be part of the change, right? You know that it's worthwhile. You're not just sitting at home binging and not contributing, which also, I mean, I'm a huge binger, so yeah.
Do you have any like improv projects coming up in the future? Or are you doing more like film and television, or is everything kind of up in the air at the moment?
I mean, yes, everything's up in the air. And I will say that I have a huge inclination to do our show again. I mean, I haven't
Really?
said this publicly, but I really, like Matt and I were just talking on our journey back from Chicago, and I was like, why don't we just do a run? Like, I just so miss it. It really depends on, of course, COVID and everything else, because I'm not really interested, I don't think, in doing a Zoom show. I find those kind
Yeah,
of, yeah. So, so we
that would
haven't
be
done any
so
live.
cool.
What's that?
Yeah. Because I just remember like that was the Carnegie Hall show was at this little venue called Bread and Circus in Kensington Market that isn't there anymore, but it was like this little stage and little like black theater. And what was the name of the pianist?
Waylon Mickey?
Mickey. Yeah, that was the other component of that show that was so beautiful, was that it was all accompanied by
Oh my
like live
God.
piano, which was crazy.
Right?
And like so like vaudevillian, and the whole thing was like totally magic. And also because like not that many people, like I feel like I had like come across this little treasure. Like what came every week. I don't know if you remember.
I do, because it was like, are you kidding me? Because we started with like 2 people in the audience.
Yeah,
And
so yeah.
I remember like the boys would start drinking because there was 2 people in the audience. We're like, well, let's just wait for a second and see if more people show up. And then they wouldn't. And then we kind of, I was like, shut her down. We're only doing it once a month. But we did it for 3 years every week. And at
Mhm.
some point, like, we just kind of went, you know what? If there's 2 people that turned up, those 2 people turned up. Like, they made the effort of coming out of their house and putting shoes on and making the effort to come down. So we're going to give them a show. And we would introduce ourselves because there was only a handful of people in the audience. And then at one point it just turned, and it was this, like, exactly as you said, like we were selling out. People were lined up, and we'd like, I think they lost their liquor license at one point, and Waylon brought his accordion, so he took everybody across the street for the intermission, and then he accordioned them back. It was magic, and I certainly missed that. And I don't know, maybe we take a vote, like whether or not we do like the Carnegie Hall, but it's also like Impromptu Splendor was so beautiful because it was like,
All of them.
oh, it's so fun. So I'll say like yes that we will do live shows, but I have no idea why I'm saying yes. I just know I really, really want to. So no, don't hold me to it, but I really would love to do it again.
Just say that's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
That's kind of been the way I've been. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like,
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're gonna shoot something. I'm gonna definitely create some content for folks online. So that's in the works in 2022. But for me, like it's I mean, you must feel this way too. Like you can it's balance, right? So if you do a little bit of this kind of world where you're talking about interviews, but you're not doing any dance, then you're like, that's not good. And if you're only dancing but not producing, then that's not good either, unless you're, in like a classy place where you're being looked after producing wise. So yeah, it's the balance of it all for me.
So where can people find you if they're like, one day she's going to be doing improv again, or what is she in these days, or want to know more about the firecracker department and maybe be a part of it, or just check out the podcast? Where are you like in the world?
I have resorted to just a solid stream of homing pigeons, which I feel is a way more effective way of dealing with social media. And so I just like morning, I tie a little note, off it goes. One person gets it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But yeah, firecrackerdepartment.com for all the firecracker stuff. And if folks, we're an exclusive female non-binary firecrackers community. So that's really important for us to like not only support those artists, but also support the community that grows. So if folks want to be part of it, we've got actually we have an open house. We do brunch. Here's something fun. In March when the pandemic hit, Joanne Bullen said, why don't we do a brunch? So every Sunday since the beginning of pandemic, somebody's on brunch having a chit chat and talking about what people are working on, and just a way for folks to not feel isolated. And then we're going to do an open house on December 19th. So that's a time to come and meet firecrackers, find out about it if you're interested. And then my world is like at Snieckus. Instagram's always good. I'm going to let you know what's going on that way. Because the homing pigeon thing is not effective, I found. So I got to take a break from that.
Yeah. Well, you tried.
I tried. One of our communications department head, Pau, who's in Mexico, was very adamant about the homing pigeon thing. I just feel with the weather, it's not trustworthy.
Yeah, maybe you're better on Instagram.
Yeah. I think that's the way.
For you there.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you. Like, it's been so lovely, even just for me personally. Like, I know you and I see you like here and there, but we never get to like sit down and really get into it.
I know, this has
So
been fun, Leah.
it's wonderful. And thanks for
What's
sharing.
I have a question for you. So this is like a fairly new venture for you, yeah?
This started in the pandemic. Like, it
Yeah.
basically started because there wasn't any opportunity for like, we're a community, kind of a lot of world musicians and dancers and that kind of thing, but it's grown beyond that. But in that world, it's like very precarious because it's not like there's a huge amount of money and
Yeah.
exposure in that country. So with the pandemic, it's like people really depended on live performance and there wasn't opportunity. So we started just creating different opportunities, whether like live stream or just like these conversations. And then it's kind of grown from there as like live performance has been permitted. We're having big shows and just doing anything we can.
Yeah. Let me ask you, well, is this what you can see like you doing for the next year? Like, do you feel like this is your jam for a while?
Oh, yeah, like there's no foreseeable ending.
Yeah.
I think me and Tamar and others who are involved, it's like just like a part of what we do now.
Yeah.
Like perform, work on our own like artistic projects,
Yeah.
work on this. I also do journalism and podcast stuff.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the thing? This is something that I know Tamara's like, wait a second, when you put it all out there, it's it's a lot. Oh, Assis has just joined us. That's one of our core members. So my question to Firecracker Department is something I always come back to when we have meetings or events is like action. So for folks to support what you're doing, what can, other than following the Instagram, which is like a no-brainer because they already are, but what's something like, what's action? What's something that we could do to support what you're doing? Because I think it's really worthwhile.
Well, Tamar, you can chime in also and answer that question. But I mean, it's like we only like know our community and like we're going to conferences and stuff and like learning about, but we come from like a very small community, or not very small, but in Toronto of artists here and in particular like genres of music and dance. But we really want to be like inclusive of women, not just in Canada and not just in music and dance. So like we'd love to have other people, like I know you, so I called you to be on the show, but if people were reaching out to us, being like, I want to share my story, people wanting to be in our shows, basically other people wanting to participate in the events and like the programming that we have would be really wonderful. Or even just like sharing ideas for like what this could be would be amazing.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to like help us with like all of the actual work that we have to do, just to, if anyone's inspired by the project and just wants to be a part of it and help our team, like that would also be amazing.
Oh my God. Yes, please.
fabcollab.ca.
I mean, why don't we do like a little, Tamara just said like a networking brunch, but that's like, why don't we like do in January, like a very special co-brunch together?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. And then we can talk all about like the artists. Yeah. Because I think that's like, we gotta step up for each other as well.
Totally. And like, it's only going to help the people in both of our communities, I think.
Do you have a newsletter on fabcollab.ca?
We do have a newsletter. Okay. We do.
So that's another good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So this is your job, everybody who's listening to this and watching, is that you're going to go get the newsletter over at fabcollab.ca and Firecracker Department, and then look for a brunch, a Sunday brunch, where we have 2 special guests and we talk FabCab.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fab Collab. No, I said Fab Cab, but it's Fab Collab. Fab Collab, it's so great.
I didn't want to correct you because you were like, what you're putting out was really amazing.
Well, I mean, as you said, like, it's kind of nice just to catch up to Leah. Like, I think every time we see each other, it's usually in the park randomly, which sounds just a little bit sketchy, but yeah. So, but I'm really happy to have this chat with you.
Oh, I have to wrap up because my mother is at the door.
She's at the door.
She's going to get her haircut.
All right.
So I'm going to go back and take care of my niece, but I want to say thank you so much. It's really wonderful. And I 100%, let's make that happen in January. And everybody check out Naomi, check out the Firecracker Department, and then check out fabcollab.ca.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful It is.
Bye, Leah.
Bye.